Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen of the Lodge, and welcome back. Today we're serving up another Kingdom Hearts video that will dive us back into the Foretellers to explore their characters further and have an idea of what lies ahead for us in the future of the Kingdom Hearts series. For those of you not familiar, feel free to check out my Sins of the Foreteller series, where I dive into each individual Foreteller and observed at what points they were guilty of committing the sin they're named after. However, for every deadly sin, there is a corresponding virtue. For example, our man Acedia here is named after the Latin word for sloth, which is Acedia. The corresponding virtue to sloth is diligence, and I'm here today to show you that as much of a sloth as Acedia was when it came to his role bestowed to him by the Master, he was equally as diligent from another perspective. Before moving forward, let's make sure we have a sound understanding of diligence. The virtue diligence, which runs parallel to sloth, is often characterized through persistence, effortfulness, and ethics. Glossing over Acedia's story, we see these characteristics embodied time and time again. So we are going to go one by one through these characterizations and show you exactly at what point Acedia acted them out. Let's start with his persistence. While Acedia is constantly persistent throughout Union Cross and back cover, perhaps his most profound display of this is when he has a meeting with Gula, where Gula bails on the alliance that Acedia had set up. When Gula lays out that he hasn't rallied anyone to the cause and that the impending darkness hasn't shown itself, Acedia refuses to give up on his suspicions and continues his rally forward.
But we don't even know who the traitor is yet!
And that's exactly why.
Don't you realize you won't stand a chance against the darkness on your own?
We can question the morality of his persistence, but there is no denying that Acedia set out on a mission against this impending darkness and was determined to see it through, even if it meant his demise. Even if his actions are misguided, his persistence alone is admirable. Moving on to our next characteristic, effortfulness. This goes hand in hand with Acedia's persistence, but effortfulness is usually in reference to more of a physical exertion. We see this most notably twice in back cover. First, when we have the scene where Envy and Acedia are duking it out after the other Foretellers agree to gang up on Acedia. Despite his wounds and fatigue, he presses on. Shortly after, we see this again when Gula finds him wounded in a warehouse. Acedia reignites and draws his sword despite his injuries and limited energy.
I called you my comrade, but never again, Gula. It doesn't matter to me if you think I am the traitor and you want to strike me down. You knew there was a traitor and you just watched silently as we fought each other. And I won't forgive you for that.
You can barely stay on your feet. Just give up already!
Don't you underestimate me!
Again, I'm sure we all have our disagreements with Acedia's actions or morals, but the sheer relentlessness he displays through his persistence and effortfulness is respectable to say the least. Then lastly, and most importantly, we have ethics. I say most importantly because I believe this particular trait is what makes Acedia the most compelling when coupled with his sloth. Obviously, Acedia being a sloth when it came to his role bestowed by the Master was insanely problematic, especially when you couple that with his desire to usurp Ira as the leader. However, misguided as Acedia was, he does have a set of ethics in play that deserve at least some validation. First off, we have to ask why Acedia was upset with Ira's leadership, and I think it could be best explained with his dialogue here.
Ira, some leader you are. You've managed to plant seeds of doubt in all of us with that speech. What, did you expect the traitor to give themselves up with that accusation of yours? That was foolish.
Obviously, Acedia should be more forgiving towards Ira. We all screw up, but there is something to be said for his critique. Next, we have Envy's perception of him that's also quite noteworthy. When Ira was ready to claim Acedia as the traitor, Envy had this to say.
So Acedia is the traitor after all.
No, I don't believe he is.
Why's that?
To Acedia, unification is a means of gathering strength to oppose the darkness. So I believe his heart still belongs to the light.
And even though Envy went back on this later in the story, it is worth noting that when examining Aced, it's not crazy to believe that his heart is aligned with the light. At the end of the day, his mission here is to stop the impending darkness, which will actually lead me into my two final and most important examples. When Aced asked Ava to join his alliance with Gula, Ava outright refused, and Aced had this to say.
I want to follow the Master's teachings.
Understood. That's your choice to make. You should do whatever you feel is right.
His answer wasn't abrasive, confrontational, or misguided. He respects everyone's right and will to follow their own heart. The ethics he has for himself are the same ethics he holds of others, at least in regards to following your heart. Then we have the scene where the Foretellers all gang up on Aced because they think he is the traitor. Before igniting the battle, Aced says to himself,
May my heart be my guiding key.
at the end of the day, whether right or wrong, Aced was following his heart. He was being true to himself. But that just about wraps it up. I've got to be honest, the first time I watched Kingdom Hearts back cover, I came away thinking Aced was a short, fused, pompous jerk. But after re-watching several times, I've come to really appreciate a different perspective on Aced. One that is more morally gray rather than black and white. But I've got to say, I am really excited to see how his character will be handled in the future. What kind of role do you think he will play? Will he and Ira be able to get along? Or will it not matter now that the Master is returning? So ladies and gentlemen, as always, it is my pleasure to make this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.